Story 1: The Old Mill's Echoes. It was the night before the 4th, July 3rd. My friends Chloe, Ben, and we were teenagers, full of that stupid, invincible confidence. Our small town, Havenwood, always had its fireworks display at the old abandoned mill. Everyone knew the legends. The mill was haunted by workers who died in some terrible accident over a century ago. But, legends, we thought it was just local folklore. We decided to sneak into the mill after dark. We wanted the best, most forbidden view of the fireworks. The air outside was warm, smelled like pine and distant barbecue. But the moment we pushed open that rusted, creaking door, a chill hit us. It was cold inside, damp, and smelled of decay and old metal. Our flashlights cut through the dust, dancing motes everywhere. We climbed to the highest floor overlooking the river. The first distant pops and whistles of early fireworks started. But then I heard it, a faint, metallic clanking. Rhythmic, slow, like gears grinding to a halt. It was coming from the floor below us. "It's just the wind," I whispered, but my voice was shaky. Even in the dark, I could see Chloe and Ben exchanging nervous glances. Then a low, guttural moan echoed through the vast, empty space. It wasn't human, and it was followed by the distinct sound of heavy chains dragging across the concrete floor. Drag, scrape, drag, scrape. The clanking intensified, now accompanied by a chilling, high-pitched shriek. Zero. Our flashlights died. Just like that, plunging us into absolute suffocating darkness. The sounds grew louder, closer, they surrounded us. I could feel a cold presence, a suffocating weight in the air pressing down. The clanking and dragging sound seemed to circle us faster and faster until the entire mill vibrated. It felt like the building itself was screaming. Just as I thought my heart would burst out of my chest, just as panic threatened to swallow me whole, a single, massive firework exploded directly overhead, the kind that lights up the entire sky. And in that fleeting burst of light, I saw them, shadowy figures, indistinct but clearly humanoid, tangled in what looked like rusted chains and gears. They were writhing, reaching. Their faces were hollow, just voids, but their eyes were burning embers. The sight was burned into my mind. I can still see it. When the darkness returned, the sounds stopped. Abruptly, we scrambled blindly for the exit, tripping, falling, bursting out into the blessed night, gasping for air. The real fireworks continued, beautiful and loud, but all I could hear was the lingering echo of chains and the phantom screams of the mill's forgotten dead. We never spoke of what we saw, not really, but every 4th of July the distant sound of fireworks brings back that chilling memory. The memory of the old mill's true inhabitants celebrating their own grim independence. Story 2: The Fireflies Dance. Moving into that old colonial house was supposed to be a fresh start. It stood on a hill overlooking the town square, perfect for watching the 4th of July parade and the evening fireworks. My daughter Lily was only 5, and she was so excited for her first Independence Day in our new home. The house itself had a strange, quiet feel, but I just put it down to its age. On the evening of July 4th, as dusk settled, the first fireflies began to blink in our backyard. Lily pointed, her eyes wide with wonder. "Mommy, look, they're dancing!" And she was right. Thousands of fireflies were swarming, forming intricate patterns, swirling and pulsing with light. It was mesmerizing. But as the night deepened, something unsettling began to happen. The fireflies weren't just random, they seemed to be forming shapes. First, a faint outline of a person, then a crude, flickering flag. As the town's fireworks began to boom, the fireflies in our yard intensified their display. They started to converge, forming a single massive, glowing silhouette of a man. His arms were outstretched, his head tilted back as if in a silent scream. The light from his form pulsed with an unnatural, sickly green hue. Lily, who had been delighted just moments ago, now clung to me, whimpering. "Mommy, he's sad." A cold dread crept up my spine. The air grew heavy, thick with a scent like damp earth and old gunpowder. The firefly figure began to slowly, deliberately move towards the back door of the house. As it neared, the individual fireflies within its form seemed to flicker faster, creating a horrifying, shimmering effect. A faint, almost inaudible whisper seemed to emanate from the glowing shape, a chorus of hushed voices. It sounded like names. And then a single clear phrase repeated over and over, Remember us. Remember the cost. I grabbed Lily and ran, locking every door, every window. I watched through the curtains as that firefly man reached the back door, its glowing hand pressing against the glass. The light pulsed, and for a terrifying moment I swore I could see skeletal fingers outlined against the pane. The figure remained there, pressing against our home until the very last firework faded from the sky. Then slowly it dispersed, breaking back into individual blinking lights, drifting away into the night. Lily and I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, the backyard was completely devoid of fireflies, but on the back door, faintly etched into the glass, were 5 small glowing fingerprints. They pulsed with a faint green light, a chilling reminder of the forgotten souls who still sought recognition on Independence Day. They wanted us to remember the cost, and I do, every single day. Story 3. The Unfinished Parade, Willow Creek, a quaint town with a peculiar 4th of July tradition. A small historical parade, antique floats, local reenactors, but for the past 50 years that parade had always stopped abruptly at one specific spot, the corner of Elm Street in Maine. It never completed its full route. Locals whispered about a tragic incident that occurred there decades ago, a forgotten accident that cursed the spot. I was a history student visiting Willow Creek for the holiday, drawn by the town's strange history. I decided to position myself at that infamous corner on July 4th, camera ready, hoping to capture something unusual. The parade began, a charming display of Americana, old cars, marching bands, patriotic floats. As the final float, a replica of a colonial-era wagon, approached the corner, the air grew strangely still. The cheerful music of the marching band ahead seemed to fade, replaced by a faint, discordant hum. Just as the wagon reached the exact intersection, it stuttered. Then it slowed to a halt. The reenactors on board, dressed as early American settlers, froze in place. Their smiles were fixed, their eyes staring blankly ahead. The entire parade behind them seemed to stop as well, frozen in time. A prickling sensation crawled over my skin. The hum intensified, a low, vibrating drone that felt like it was coming from beneath the asphalt. Then, from the ground directly in front of the stopped wagon, a shimmering, translucent mist began to rise. It swirled and coalesced, slowly forming vague, spectral figures. They were indistinct, but I could make out the faint outlines of men, women, and children, all dressed in colonial attire. Their faces were filled with a silent, profound despair. The air grew icy cold, and the scent of damp earth and old wood filled my nostrils. The spectral figures began to move, slowly walking through the frozen parade participants. Their translucent forms passed directly through the solid bodies of the reenactors. As they did, a faint, collective sigh seemed to ripple through the air, a sound of profound sorrow. I tried to raise my camera, but my hands were trembling too much. I watched, horrified, as that spectral procession continued, moving past the stopped parade as if completing a journey that had been interrupted long, long ago. They moved silently, their eyes fixed on some unseen point beyond the intersection, their forms slowly fading as they passed out of view. Then, as suddenly as it began, the mist dissipated, the hum ceased, the colonial wagon jolted forward, and the parade music swelled back to life. The reenactors resumed their cheerful waves as if nothing had happened. The rest of the parade continued its route as usual, completely oblivious. I stood there, shaken to my core. I was the only one who had seen it. I checked my camera, but the photos were a blur, nothing but streaks of light. I knew then why the parade always stopped at that corner. It wasn't a curse, it was a memorial. Every 4th of July, the forgotten spirits of Willow Creek's past completed their own silent, sorrowful parade, a haunting reminder of a history the town had chosen to forget, a history that refused to stay buried.